Every morning, the first thing she does is puncture her husband's car tire. Then she bribes her husband's boss. Her only goal is simple: to get her husband fired. After all that, she heads straight to a cafe by the road, orders a cup of coffee, and waits for her husband to come have lunch with her. One day after her husband arrives, he tells her some bad news. His boss won't let him fly today. When she hears this, she's unusually happy. It seems her plan is finally working. Her husband won't have to go to work anymore. But then, her husband continues, saying that through his efforts, his boss has agreed to let him fly after all. She suddenly starts crying. She feels like she's done so much, but it hasn't worked at all. Her husband thinks she's crying because she's happy for him. Then, she hands him a note, telling him to read it after he boards the plane. She then meets with a mysterious person and buys something that looks like a handgun. What is she planning to do? She rushes to the airport before her husband's flight. She begs him not to take off. She says the plane will crash. Seeing her lose control, her husband is confused. In the end, security escorts her off the plane. After comforting her, he heads back to board. He still doesn't believe her, as he watches Flight 2205 take off. Back at home, she waits by the phone in despair, hoping for a miracle. Then suddenly, lightning strikes outside, and the phone rings. It's like she already knows what the call will say. She picks up the gun and answers the phone. Her husband's plane has crashed. There were no survivors. Hearing this predictable news, she makes a decisive move, but the next moment, she doesn't die. Instead, she finds herself back at the morning the events began. It's not the first time she's relived this day, but no matter what she does each time, she still can't stop her husband from boarding that plane. And while she's reliving the day, in a timeline decades later, a young boy, just declared a hero, sits under the shower, muttering that he's lived through this once before. He's Leon, the pilot of the doomed plane.